I'd like to think I have a pretty high tolerance for quote unquote bad horror movies, but this one really pushes my limit of how much bad I'm willing to sit through. Night Swim of 2024 is the feature length directorial debut of Bryce McGuire, who back in 2014 made a short film under the same name. Now, the short film was great. It's less than 5 minutes, it's eerie, it's tense, it's super fun to watch. I love it. And you can feel a lot of those elements in the feature length Night Swim, but only at certain moments relating to the pool and any horror scenes relating to the pool. And I don't know why no one on the Blumhouse team or Atomic Monster or even Bryce McGuire's team didn't raise the question of, well, how much story can we actually get out of a scary haunted pool? And that's where the movie really falters for me, is there's not a lot of focus on the pool besides like the scary elements until the very end of the movie. And there's a lot of other things in the film that I'll talk about that weren't super great. But I don't want to be too hard considering this is Bryce McGuire's like first feature-length film, and I really admire him for challenging himself to grow as an artist in that way. But as I critique the movie, I will look for a couple of things that I did enjoy. I think if you truly love cinema, even if you're watching a movie you hate, you'll still find things about it that you can enjoy or at least admire. But Night Swim is a very flat, very boring, very forgettable movie. I remember going to the theaters to see it because I thought it would be one of those it's so bad, it's good horror movies, but no. To start off, the characters in this movie are awful. Not awful in an annoying, unlikable way, but in a I don't know anything about you, so why should I like you more so way. And the main character of the family would be the dad, Ray. He was a professional baseball player who unfortunately developed MS and had to retire from his career. And I get that's sad and that's a lot to handle, but bro cannot stop reminiscing. At certain points, this horror movie feels like I'm just watching a dude go through a midlife crisis and he can't stop talking about baseball and applying baseball to literally every element and piece of advice in his life. He isn't like the worst dad ever, but maybe it's just the way Wyatt Russell portrayed him. He just doesn't seem to really care about his family. Like, there's some scenes that are emotional where there's no light in his eyes or the tone of what he's saying doesn't match the tone of what's happening. So maybe that's on Wyatt Russell, I don't know. But the character Ray is just generally boring, and his whole life is baseball, and he's kind of an asshole to his son who just wants his approval, which is so funny because I drew the parallel from Fantastic Mr. Fox of Mr. Fox and Ash.
Do you think I'm an athlete?
What are you talking about?
Well, I think I'm an athlete, and sometimes I feel like you guys don't see me that way.
But yeah, the dad Ray loves baseball, baseball's his life, and he is the one that actually encourages the family to want the house with the scary pool, and it's his decision to move there, which is funny because the pool in a way picks him, but I will talk about that in a little bit when I go into depth about the pool. The mom, I can't even think of her name right now. She is pretty boring, more likable than Ray because she actually cares about her kids and kind of starts to question what's going on. And there's also a really cool scene where she goes into the pool to save Elliot and saves him from like all the previous souls captured by the pool, which definitely adds some points to her. But there's no character development, there's no big emotional scenes, there's nothing to really like her for. And the same goes for the kids. Like, honestly, the oldest daughter, she could not be in the movie, and I don't think you'd really notice. There's only a couple of scenes that kind of center around her. She doesn't go through anything crazy. And then the son, Elliot, that's his name, he plays a much larger role in the theme of the movie, and he goes through a lot more involving the scary haunted pool. But he's just a kid, like, you don't really hate him, but there's no reason to really like him, and you kind of just feel bad that he wants his dad to like him, but for whatever reason, his dad's kind of just a dick to him and writes him off. Same with his sister. Now that I'm thinking about it, the dad and the sister are kind of mean to him, and the mom's like the only person who is supportive and makes him feel seen. Other than that, there's not a ton of characters in this movie. There's a couple of side characters, but they're not in it long enough to really make a difference. So yeah, just a big, unlikable family that's boring, and you kind of hope that the pool drowns one of them. One of my biggest gripes with this movie is it has zero subtlety to it. I really enjoy when a movie kind of feeds you little crumbs of what's going on or some mysterious aspect of it, and as the movie goes on, you kind of get the full picture. Night Swim does not do that at all. It is constantly harping on everything you should be paying attention to, which gets extremely repetitive and annoying. I also hate that the first 5-10 minutes of the movie immediately ruins the mystique of the pool. Like, they just straight up tell you it's evil right in the beginning, which is kind of frustrating. I felt like the movie would have been more intriguing if they left that mystery going a little bit longer. And there's just several scenes that are so in your face about what you should be paying attention to. Like, the daughter starts at the new high school after they move into the house and is immediately invited to the swim team. Ray, his MS seems to be getting worse, so the doctor recommends swim therapy. And it's just frustrating when a movie treats you like you're dumb. There's also a weird pretentious kind of vibe to the movie, not only because they use artistic shots that don't really fit the vibe, but also because they don't really touch on the theme of the movie until the very end, which is frustrating. Like, literally up until the last 30 minutes, you can maybe pick up on the theme if you like really pay attention, but they use just straight up dialogue to tell you the theme.
Love requires sacrifice.
And if you go back and look at the movie, you can kind of see that, how the dad isn't willing to sacrifice his baseball career, and like having the pool heal him makes him, healthy and able to return to baseball, which he doesn't want to give up. But then at the very end of the movie, he does sacrifice himself. But that's literally just the last 30 minutes. Like, the rest of the movie, the dude cannot stop being nostalgic and thinking about his glory days. So it's funny that they harp on that, and then at the very end, they just outright tell you the theme. It feels pretentious up until that point. But yeah, I don't like the lack of subtlety. I don't like the lack of mystery. It just feels like the movie's treating me like I'm dumb and is kind of laying it all out for me. You would think a movie about a haunted pool would focus a little bit more on why the pool is haunted, but no. Unfortunately, there is not a lot of explanation as to why the pool is haunted by these entities. We get a brief kind of expo dump within the first 30 minutes of the movie where Ray is trying to clean out the pool drain and his hand gets cut, so the pool starts throwing up pool juice from the drain. They call a pool repair company, and one of the guys starts explaining to the parents that it's a spring-fed pool that used to be a big draw to the area. And towards the end of his spiel, he starts getting weird and ominous, talking about life and death and give and take of the water. And if I had some random dude telling me that, I would definitely look into it, maybe go inside and Google what's going on with spring-fed pools. That's the only bit of information you get for most of the movie, which, yes, adds a mystique to the pool, but it gets kind of frustrating because you get no clues or anything else relating to the springs that are feeding the pool, how the pool got haunted, yada, yada, yada. But then, in the last 30 minutes of the movie, Mrs. Waller goes to visit Mrs. Summers, who is the mother of the girl that drowns in the beginning of the movie. And she gives this big expo dump that feels very shallow. She talks about how way back when, before the town was established, people would worship the water and sacrifice their loved ones to get benefits from the water. It's a very big expo dump. The performance, though, is really well done. Mrs. Summers, actress, gives the best performance of the whole movie, in my opinion. But it just feels like a lot of shallow reasoning as to why the pool is haunted. It doesn't feel justified. And with the pool, there's inconsistencies. Towards the end of the movie, during what I would call the climactic part of it, there is a glass of water on the counter, and as the scene progresses, the water slowly starts to move to fall off the counter. And it's kind of implied that the pool is doing that, but at no other point in the movie do we see the pool control bodies of water on the property. So that felt kind of out of place. When it comes to the entity in the pool, I feel like each family member, when they encounter it, it's like 3 different entities. None of them look the same. They aren't the souls of like previous tenants who had died from the pool. You can clearly see them at the end when Elliot's being taken. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't know if there's multiple entities, if it's just one and they forgot to, I don't know, edit so that it's the same entity in every shot. I don't know what happened, but it was kind of confusing for me at least. I also hate that they have the pool kill a cat. So the family has a cat named Cider, and it really feels like they did it for shock value. And I hate that they killed the cat. No cat is going to hang out on a diving board. You know what I mean? Like, if so, it's a 1 in a million chance, or it's a cat that has lived by water its whole life. This family has lived there like a couple days. And then there's a later point where the pool is trying to like mimic the sound of Cider and gives Elliot the illusion that the cat is on like this pink flamingo pool floaty thing. No cat would ever hang out on that. They would pop it. I don't know. Maybe I'm taking it too seriously, but I really hate that they have the cat get taken, and it feels like it's just for shock value. And I honestly hate animal deaths in movies. I know that's something a lot of people are sensitive to, but in this movie, it feels especially pointless. And that's the other thing, is when all the other souls are like in the pool trying to get Elliot, where's the cat? I don't see the cat in the water with everybody else. I don't know. It felt pointless and like it was just there for shock value. I hated it. And yeah, I just feel like the pool kind of got pushed to the back burner. They had some ideas for it, but they didn't really fully commit to them and just kind of left bits and pieces of it in the movie, which is really annoying. As no surprise, the movie lacks horror, which is disappointing to say. And what's even more disappointing to say is I've kind of come to expect that with modern horror. They use jump scares a lot in this movie, which can be fine, but because there's no buildup and you're already expecting it, it kind of loses its punch. Other than that, I feel like they don't really use anything to build up the atmosphere of horror or the fear. There is one scene where Elliot is in the pool by himself and he gets drawn to it's like the pool filter. It's like the flap thing in the side of the pool. And he has kind of a Pennywise Georgie interaction with the entity where it's luring him over and getting him to stick his hand in the filter, and then it grabs him and he like freaks out. And in that scene, the entity looks pretty good. We only really see the upper face, but it doesn't look bad. Then at another point, the daughter is having a pool date with some guy she's interested in. They're playing Marco Polo and the dude gets out of the water, so the entity starts playing Marco Polo with Liz. At the end, she opens her eyes and we see this CGI bloated dude. It looks so bad. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of bloated bodies, but I just think of season 2 of The Walking Dead when they pull the walker out of the well, how realistic and grotesque that zombie looked. And granted, this isn't a zombie, it's an entity or a god or whatever, but it just looked so bad. Like the way the eyes are like bulging, I hated it. It was not scary at all. They also don't utilize Ray being possessed very well. There's certain points where it's very obvious he's possessed. They have a pool party and invite like the neighborhood and Elliot's baseball team. And while outside, Ray asks this other kid, so not his son Elliot, he asks this other kid who's like a star baseball player on his son's team to play chicken with another dad and kid in the water. And while they're doing it, Ray suddenly becomes possessed by the pool and basically starts to drown the kid by backing into the deep end and not letting go of his legs as they play chicken. There's another part where Mrs. Waller really wants to leave the property, and this feels kind of sudden after the incident with the kid almost being drowned by Rey. It kind of just jumps abruptly to this. But anyways, he like can't leave the property because he's now tethered to the pool. I don't know if he has like the pool water in him or what, but he starts to get sick and like basically die as they try to leave the driveway. So I feel like if they would have played with the possession aspect of Rey throughout the film instead of just the last 45 minutes, it would have been better. I did like, actually, I don't know if I liked it, but how I was talking about earlier, how the pool can control water inside the house. After that glass breaks, the daughter Liz comes running back in and slips on the water and has a piece of glass go into, it's like her palm or like where her wrist meets her palm. Absolutely disgusting. I hate shit like that. That's like my worst nightmare. But anyways, after she has the shard of glass in her palm, she rips it out and Rey shows up very possessed. He's basically preventing her from getting help and he backhands the shit out of her, just absolutely smacks her into the ground. They're going back and forth. She's trying to get away from him. And he also grabs her hair and like rips out a chunk of it. I would say this is the scariest part of the movie. And it happens in the last like 20 minutes, which is really frustrating. But yeah, he just absolutely beats the shit out of her, ends up chasing her into the garage where he locks her in there. So I really wish they would have done more with Possess Rey. I feel like it was like very quick scene of seeing him in that position. Yeah, there's just nothing scary about this movie. I can't even think of any other scary elements of it. Besides the pool manipulating them. I guess the scene with Mrs. Summers when she's explaining to Mrs. Waller like her own experience with the pool and the history of the pool. That scene's kind of intense. I feel like the actress of Mrs. Summers did a really great job. I really dig the possessed pool juice coming out of her eyes and like coming from her nose into her oxygen tank. That was pretty cool. But other than that, I was very disappointed. And it's not like, I don't know, it's a haunted pool. Like what's so scary about that? Like what can you really do with that to induce fear in people? The ending feels incredibly rushed and lacks emotion of any kind. Basically, Eve, the mom, whose name I've forgotten the whole time while recording, has saved Elliot from the pool and she's trying to resuscitate him. Rey comes out of the house after locking Liz in the garage and basically tells his wife that there's no point in trying to save their son. The pool demands sacrifice and Rey's all healthy and can go back to playing baseball now. Everything can be good, yada, yada, yada. He grabs Eve by the throat and is suddenly super strong, so he lifts her in the air by her throat. As this is happening, Liz comes running out of the garage with a metal baseball bat and just starts hitting him like a goddamn piñata. She is not risking anything and is just swinging full board at him. So he gets knocked unconscious and he's having all these flashes of his life, remembering his baseball career, moments with his family. And this whole time, Liz is saying like encouraging things to him. And it just feels kind of weird, especially considering he just pimp slapped her and like ripped her hair out. But whatever. It's her dad, I guess. But he ends up fighting off the possession and he's looking at his son, Elliot, who's still struggling. He's still possessed by the pool in a way, like the pool wants Elliot as a sacrifice. So Rey literally says, "Love is sacrifice," which was said moments ago by Mrs. Summers to Eve. And he just walks into the pool and his family just stares on and he looks at them and I think he says like, "Don't look back," or something like that as he walks into the pool and dies. Every family member's face is emotionless. Like they could give a fuck that this guy died. And I feel like this moment was supposed to be redemption for Rey, but it's really not. Like even his own family doesn't care that he's dying. He was a crappy dad. He was obsessed with his past. He was a bad husband. There's no redemption for this guy. So they all are hugging and don't give a crap that the man of the house just died. I assume it's the next day or a couple days later, we are back with Eve and the kids. And instead of leaving this house that now has a bunch of traumatic memories, they just fill the murder pool. Like this pool that has killed countless lives, they just fill it with dirt and keep living in the house, which feels just ridiculous. And it kind of adds to that emotionless, how they weren't really affected by any of this happening to them. And it's just a shitty ending to a shitty movie. I don't know what else I expected. Very dissatisfying. It kind of makes you dislike the characters even more. What other way would you end such an awful film? I always forget this movie came out just last year. It feels like an older film, not like it's decades old, but it just does not feel like a present day horror film. And I would only recommend this if you know someone that is hesitant to get into horror or they're easily scared. I feel like it's an all right introduction to horror. It doesn't really have any overall strong points. Night Swim tries really hard to make you feel like an emotional connection with this family and the struggle that they're going through, but it all just falls flat, and I feel like they don't focus on the right areas of the story they're trying to tell. But yeah, that's Night Swim. I don't, if you're looking for something dumb to put on, this might be a good one to put in the background, but I don't recommend this one very much. I feel like Atomic Monster in the past couple of years has kind of been letting us down, but I'll talk about that more in my next video. Thanks for listening to me ramble. I'll catch you in the next one.